Bruce Lee walks into the Whisky A Go-Go at 2 a.m. when the biggest bouncer in Los Angeles looks at him and says, "Kung Fu don't mean shit when you're 140 pounds and I'm 280. Size wins, always." What happens in the next 4 seconds doesn't just prove him wrong. It changes how every nightclub in LA thinks about security forever. Los Angeles, California. August 1969. Saturday night bleeding into Sunday morning. The Whisky A Go-Go on Sunset Strip. The most famous rock club in America. Where the Doors got discovered. Where Janis Joplin sang until her voice gave out. Where every band that matters has played or will play. The building pulses like a living thing. Bass rattling the windows. Drums shaking the sidewalk. The neon sign bathes everything in red and blue. Cars line both sides of Sunset. Cadillacs and Corvettes. A movie star money and trust fund rebellion. This is where Hollywood goes when it wants to forget it's Hollywood. The line outside wraps around the corner. Maybe 200 people. Women in short dresses and high boots. Men in leather jackets trying to look dangerous. Everyone smoking. Everyone hoping the bouncer lets them in. Because getting past the bouncer at the Whisky isn't about tickets. It's about whether your face fits. Whether you're somebody. Whether you know somebody. The bouncer decides everything. And tonight, the bouncer is Frank Morrison. Everyone calls him the Tank. 6 feet 4 inches, 280 pounds. Former UCLA linebacker until a knee injury ended his football career sophomore year. That was 8 years ago. Now he's 28 years old and the most feared bouncer in Los Angeles. He's worked the door at the Whisky for 6 years, thrown out over 1,000 people, drunk celebrities, violent bikers, gang members looking for trouble. None of them got past Frank when he decided they weren't getting in. His reputation is simple. Nobody moves the Tank. Nobody. Frank stands at the velvet rope wearing black slacks and a tight black t-shirt that shows every muscle. His arms are massive. His chest is a wall. His hands are the size of dinner plates. He doesn't smile, doesn't joke, just looks at each person in line, makes a decision in 2 seconds, either unclips the rope or shakes his head. No explanations, no arguments. If Frank says no, the answer is no. If you push it, you leave on a stretcher. At 2:17 a.m., Bruce Lee walks up Sunset Boulevard with Linda and 3 friends. They're coming from dinner in Beverly Hills. Someone mentioned, the Whisky has a late show tonight. Some blues band from Chicago. Bruce isn't really into blues, but Linda wants to hear them. She's wearing a blue dress. Her blonde hair catches the neon light. Bruce is in black slacks and a dark gray shirt. Simple, clean. He looks like someone's accountant. Nobody on the street gives him a second glance. They join the line. Wait 15 minutes. Slowly moving forward as Frank processes each group. Finally, they reach the front. Frank looks at them. His eyes move from Bruce to Linda to the friends. He pauses on Linda, then back to Bruce, something calculating in his expression. VIP section's full, Frank says. His voice is deep, carries weight like everything else about him. One of Bruce's friends speaks up. We don't need VIP, just regular entry. Regular's full, too. The line's been moving for 20 minutes. Not for you. Frank crosses his arms, the universal signal. This conversation is over. Linda squeezes Bruce's hand. She knows this game. She's seen it before. The barely disguised racism. The assumption that Bruce isn't someone, isn't somebody, doesn't belong. Bruce's friend tries once more. Look, this is Bruce Lee. He's the guy from the Green Hornet, Kato. Frank's eyebrows raise slightly. Recognition, but not the good kind. Oh yeah? The kung fu guy? He says kung fu like it's a joke, like it's a toy. Yeah, I know who you are. TV actor. Does those ninja moves for the cameras. Close enough, Bruce says quietly. Frank leans forward. Not aggressive, just making his size obvious. Making the size difference impossible to ignore. Now let me tell you something, TV guy. I've seen your show, impressive moves, good for television. But this isn't television. This is my door. And I don't care if you're Bruce Lee or Bruce Wayne. Kung Fu don't mean shit when you're, 140 pounds? And I'm 280. Size wins. Always. He pauses. So why don't you and your friends find another club? Somewhere more your speed. The line behind them has stopped. Everyone watching. Waiting to see what happens. Waiting to see if the famous TV guy argues with the tank. Waiting for the entertainment. Internal monologue. He's used his size as authority his entire adult life. 6 years on this door. 1,000 confrontations. And every single time, his size won the argument before the argument even started. He doesn't see me as a threat. He sees me as a problem that will solve itself once I realize how big he is, but size isn't what he thinks it is. Bruce looks at Frank, calm, no anger, no frustration, just present. What if I could move you? Frank blinks. What? If I could move you 1 inch, would you let us in? Frank stares at him for a long moment. Then he laughs, not a small laugh. A full, loud laugh that carries down Sunset Boulevard. You want to try to move me? Is that what you're saying? I'm saying if I move you 1 inch, you let us in. If I can't, we leave. No argument. Frank's grin widens. This is too good. This tiny Asian actor thinks he can move the tank. The man who's never been moved in 6 years. You serious? Completely. 1 inch. 1 inch. Frank looks at the crowd in line. Everyone's watching now. The phones aren't a thing yet, but if they were, everyone would be recording. All right, TV guy, you want to embarrass yourself? Be my guest. But when this is over, you walk away. No arguing, no complaining. Deal? Deal. Frank plants his feet, shoulder width apart, weight centered. The stance of a man who's been in 100 bar fights and won them all. Anytime you're ready, little man. Bruce steps forward. Doesn't square up. Doesn't take a fighting stance. Just walks closer until he's 2 feet from Frank. Close enough to make Frank slightly uncomfortable with the proximity. Bruce looks up at him. Frank looks down. The height difference is dramatic. Comical, almost. Linda watches from 3 feet away. She's seen Bruce train. She's seen him move. But she's never seen him do anything like this in public. Part of her is terrified. And part of her trusts him completely. Bruce raises his right hand, extends 3 fingers. Index, middle, ring. I'm going to touch 3 points on your body. Not hard, just touch. And when I do, your left leg is going to stop working for about 10 seconds. Your weight will shift. You'll move backward. Not because I push you, because your body will have no choice. Frank laughs again. Sure, buddy. Whatever magic ninja stuff you think you're doing, go ahead. Bruce's hand moves. Fast but not violent. 3 quick touches. 1 on Frank's lower ribs, left side. 1 on his hip. 1 on the back of his left knee. The whole sequence takes maybe 1 second. The touches are light, barely pressure, like tapping someone to get their attention. Frank's grin stays frozen on his face for 2 seconds. Then something changes. His left eyebrow twitches. His grin falters. His left leg shifts. Not a stumble, not a trip, just a sudden weakness, like the muscles forgot how to fire. His weight lurches to the right. His right leg compensates, tries to hold him steady, but his center of gravity is already moving, already falling. Frank takes one step backward, then another. His hands come off his hips, go out to his sides, trying to balance, trying to understand what just happened. He catches himself on the velvet rope post, grabs it, holds it, stares at his left leg like it betrayed him. The crowd gasps. Someone says, "Holy shit!" Frank looks up at Bruce. Confusion, shock. His mouth opens, closes, opens again. "What did you do?" "I asked your nervous system to stop sending signals to your left leg. It agreed." "That's not..." Frank's voice trails off. He's testing his leg now. He's putting weight on it. It works. The strength is coming back. But for 4 seconds, maybe 5, it just didn't. "That's not possible." "It's anatomy. Pressure points. Nerve clusters. Nothing mystical. Just understanding how the body works." Frank straightens. He's still holding the rope, but his balance is back. His face is red. Not from exertion, from embarrassment. 200 people just watched him stumble backward from a touch. Just watched a guy half his size make him lose control of his own body. His reputation just took a hit it might never recover from. But then Bruce does something Frank doesn't expect. Bruce extends his hand, not to shake, just offering. "I'm not trying to embarrass you. I'm showing you something most people don't know. Size matters. You're not wrong about that. But it's not the only thing that matters. There are other tools, other ways to control a situation that don't require overpowering someone." Frank stares at the hand, at Bruce, at the crowd watching. He could get angry, could throw Bruce and his friends out anyway, could use his size and his authority to save face. But something in Bruce's eyes stops him, something that isn't mockery, isn't gloating, just honest respect, one professional to another. Frank takes Bruce's hand, shakes it once, firm. "How did you do that?" "I can show you. Not tonight. But if you want to learn, I teach at a school in Chinatown. You're welcome to come." Frank releases the hand, looks at the crowd, then back at Bruce. He unclips the velvet rope. "Go on in. VIP section. Drinks are on the house." Bruce nods. "Thank you." As Bruce and Linda walk past, Frank grabs his arm gently. He leans in close enough so only Bruce can hear. "I need to learn that. What you just did. I've been doing this job for 6 years. Every night it's size and intimidation. But what if size isn't enough someday? What if someone comes through that door who doesn't care how big I am?" Bruce looks at him. "You're already thinking the right way. That's the first step." 2 weeks later, Frank Morrison walks into Bruce's Junfan Gung Fu Institute in Chinatown. Nervous, out of place. This isn't his world, but he's here because he can't stop thinking about that night, about how easily his body betrayed him, about how something he didn't understand made him powerless. Bruce sees him, smiles, genuinely pleased. "You came." "Yeah, I want to learn." Over the next 6 months, Frank trains 3 times a week. Bruce doesn't teach him kung fu. He teaches him control, de-escalation, how to read body language, how to recognize when someone's drunk versus high versus actually dangerous, how to use presence instead of force, how to touch 3 points and make someone rethink their choices without ever throwing a punch. Frank transforms. Not physically. He's still 280 pounds of muscle, but he moves differently, speaks differently, carries himself with a confidence that isn't about size. It's about knowledge, about understanding, about having tools most people don't know exist. 6 months after that night at the Whisky, Frank hasn't thrown a single person out with force. Not one. He's de-escalated 50 confrontations, talked down 20 drunk idiots, prevented 15 fights, all without violence. The other bouncers on Sunset Strip notice, start asking questions. Frank tells them about Bruce. 3 of them start training. In 1972, Frank opens his own security company, Morrison Security. He trains every bouncer personally, teaches them what Bruce taught him. The company becomes known for something unusual. Clubs that hire Morrison Security have 0 violence, 0 lawsuits, 0 police incidents. Because Frank's bouncers don't fight. They control, they de-escalate, they use presence and knowledge instead of size and intimidation. When Bruce dies in 1973, Frank closes his company for a week. Doesn't explain why, just locks the doors, sits in his office, thinks about a Saturday night in 1969. About 4 seconds that taught him more than 8 years of throwing people out ever did. Years later, in 1995, a reporter doing a story on nightclub security interviews Frank. Asks him about his methods, but why Morrison Security has such a good reputation. Frank thinks for a long time. Then he tells the story, the whole story, about Bruce Lee, about being made to look foolish in front of 200 people, about learning that being proven wrong is the first step to being better. The reporter asks, "Did you ever resent him for embarrassing you?" Frank shakes his head. "He didn't embarrass me. I embarrassed myself. I assumed size was everything. Bruce showed me I was wrong. Then he offered to teach me. Most people would have walked away, left me looking stupid. Bruce offered his hand. That's the difference between proving someone wrong and teaching them something. Bruce did both. So here's the question. How many times have you used size to win an argument? Physical size, professional size, financial size. The weight of your position, or your reputation, or your experience. And how many times did winning the argument actually solve the problem? Because Frank Morrison learned something on a Saturday night in 1969. Size can win a confrontation, but knowledge can prevent it from happening at all. And preventing the fight is always better than winning it. Who in your life is trying to win the confrontation when they should be preventing it? And more importantly, when's the last time you let someone prove you wrong and then offer to teach you something better? If this story made you think about the difference between winning and understanding, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories about the moments that redefine strength, and drop in the comments. When did someone prove you wrong and it changed you for the better?